What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you some really cool people today. Now, for those of you who caught the most recent town hall, there were a couple of guests on from the NFTy Arcade Guild. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you got it, man.
So,
Nice.
So Tyler was on, and then Mike is joining him. Mike was not on the town hall, but I'm very excited to speak with both of you. And if you want to just give a quick moment of introduction for yourselves and a little bit more about NFTy Arcade, and then we can jump into some of the meat.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll start. So I'm Tyler. I am the CEO and founder of NFTy Arcade. We are a play and earn guild, and we're branding ourselves as a top 10% competitive guild. So we're looking to create opportunities for players who want to be in the top 10% of games, Splinterlands, and a variety of other play and earn projects. And we want to build ourselves as an organization that is very competitive and brings out the best players in the space.
Yeah, and I'm Mike Shaleko. I am the marketing director here at NFTy. Brand new to the team, super excited to be involved in both the games we play, building these top 10% players, and most importantly, the social impact that we are trying to create in the world. Really good cause, really awesome community. It's been a blast so far. Super unique, something very new that I'm working on, and just super excited to see where this is going.
Very cool. Well, so one of the main reasons that I wanted to chat with you guys, because the social impact thing was something you mentioned during the town hall, and that's something that really got me into it. So just a little background for myself. The whole reason that I even explored like Axie Infinity and then found Splinterlands back in July and August of last year was because I heard there were people in the Philippines making $25 a day playing video games. And to me, I'm just like, obviously in the US, $25 isn't gonna, it might not even pay rent, but over there, it goes a long way, right? And there was all of a sudden this crazy ecosystem. And I have so my mom's from the Philippines. I was born and raised in the US, but my mom's from the Philippines. I've been there many times in my life. I have a lot of family there. So it was like this cool kind of obviously hit home for me, but it was just this element of like, wow, there's like crypto and gaming and NFT gaming is really making some kind of impact for people in all different parts of the world. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then, not that I'm trying to call out any other guilds, but you're one of the first guilds that I was listening to where it was like, hey, social impact is a big part of what we do. And I'd love to hear the backstory of that and how that kind of came about for NFTy Arcade.
Of course, and I tell my team all the time that there is a very specific reason why we get up in the morning and why we're building what we're building. And it all starts with Madagascar, the country, not the movie. We had a tuk-tuk business in Madagascar, actually. And if you're not familiar with what tuk-tuks are three-wheeled vehicles, oftentimes found in India, some parts of Asia, and obviously in Africa. And they're used as taxis. So they're essentially three-wheeled taxis, and people will cart people around. They'll transport people around, and they'll get paid in there. It's essentially a taxi service. Now, what we had done was we're very passionate about social impact, and we're very passionate about Madagascar specifically, actually Africa in general, and really Madagascar specifically. We have a special place in our heart for Madagascar for a multiplicity of reasons. But what happened was we were down in Madagascar, and we noticed that there were a plethora of tuk-tuk drivers who were perpetually driving their vehicles and not able to save money, not able to kind of progress anywhere. There was no upward income trajectory. They were endlessly leasing the vehicles from wealthier tuk-tuk owners. We actually did some math. One of our tuk-tuk drivers had been driving for about 5 years. He had paid over $6,000 in rent, which is an incredible amount in Madagascar. And he had actually only taken home about $2,000 for himself over that same time period, right? Wow. And so we saw a really cool opportunity there. Actually, we saw that if we allow these drivers to participate in lease to own programs, sure, they'll still be paying the same that they're paying while they're renting. But then after 2 years, they own the vehicle, they can quadruple their income. Mm-hmm. And that was really exciting to us because that's a viable business model. But more than anything, that changes lives. That income allows people to earn, save, and invest. And one of the biggest problems that people in developing countries face is they can't even earn enough money to save, let alone take care of their families. And we wanted to help fix that problem. So long story, fast forward 2 years, and we built quite an organization up to 150 tuk-tuks with people driving them, transporting people around, and the pandemic hit. And unfortunately, as we know, the pandemic, everybody shut down and everybody locked themselves in their houses, and that drastically affected tuk-tuk drivers. Nobody could drive anybody around. They weren't even allowed to go outside and drive people around. And I was brought on as the CEO of Speedy kind of right after the pandemic. And with the pandemic recently in mind, I asked myself and my team, what are we going to do with hundreds of thousands of dollars of assets and keep them producing and not have them sit? How are we going to help people continually make money while there's a pandemic and maybe they can't transport people around? And so funny enough, we had been involved in crypto for about 5 years. We have a crypto mining operation actually here in Utah, and my co-founder had been involved in DeFi for another 2 years, really getting involved in DEXs and doing all kinds of fun stuff there. So we threw around a few ideas. Hey, what if we brought retail internet to people in their houses? We use tuk-tuks, right? We could transport internet boxes and they could use the internet for an hour. Most people in Madagascar don't have access to retail internet unless they go to a cyber cafe. And so we threw around a few ideas and we came across an article about play and earn. And we weren't quite familiar with play and earn. We'd heard of it, right? But didn't know a lot about play and earn. And so I kind of dug into this article, heard about Axie Infinity, heard about some of these play and earn projects, and I fell in love immediately. I am a video game enthusiast. I love video games. I've played RuneScape, League of Legends, all of it. And when I found out that there were people in the Philippines, kind of the same story as you, when I found out that people in the Philippines were making money and there were people in developing countries making money by playing these games, and it was a catalyst for adoption of cryptocurrency, something that we're already passionate about, I was sold. So I got on my hands and knees and I begged my wife to let me buy some Axies and figure out how to monetize this. And we did. And Nifty Arcade was born in that moment. We decided that we were going to build a guild. We were going to build an organization that was going to provide millions of jobs across the world, help people earn, save, and invest. And that's actually a huge part of our model. It's not just about a guild and not about helping them earn. We have a very specific methodology about how we want to approach helping people then retain that value that they're earning with us and then invest in themselves. And that's a conversation for another time. But our whole organization is about how much value can we provide on an individual basis to people who need this and can improve their lives with us.
I love that. And there's something that, there's something interesting in how you view it, where you say play and earn, where generally what I've heard in kind of the mainstream media is play to earn. So I'm curious if there's any background and maybe what the significance is on play and earn versus play to earn.
Of course. Well, I have, as you probably could tell in the town hall, I'm very opinionated about the way the space is going. Certain developments that I'm very, I guess you could say, salty with, right?
Fair. Yep.
The thing is, these are video games. And we need to be building video games, right? Video games and value extraction in a video game ecosystem has existed long before blockchain ever became an advent, and long before, for example, in RuneScape, there's an iconic kind of infamous group called Venezuelan gold farmers, right? And these people live in Venezuela and they will farm the in-game currency of RuneScape and sell it illicitly. Obviously, in RuneScape and a lot of these existing Web2 gaming ecosystems, any kind of value extraction is not abiding by the rules. You're not supposed to do that, right? You're not supposed to sell in-game assets to other people for real world money. And so the way that I see gaming is that all we're doing with NFTs and all we're doing with cryptocurrency is we're legitimizing somebody's ability to take value out of the game. But it's a video game and people are going to put money in and they won't take money out, right? But it's so weird that in this space, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, let's build something on the blockchain. Let's build a way to make money. And then, how do we make a game out of it, right? It just makes no sense to me. We're building these clip farms. We're building these grindy games. They're not games. They're just grind and earn, right? But that's why I will always facilitate a narrative that is, we need to build video games, and the people who earn are going to be the people who are best, because that's the way it works in any gaming ecosystem right now. Any ecosystem where everybody wins is not sustainable and it won't be around for a long time. And that's again why I love Splinterlands, because Splinterlands isn't about earning. They built a video game and all they did was say, hey, we'll use blockchain as a tool to facilitate our values of ownership, right? But it's about a video game. It's not about the blockchain, right? So that's kind of the history there.
Yeah, I'm the OG in the office here too, man. I'm probably one of the oldest gamers here, and it's not by skill, it's by age. But what I find beautiful about what we're building here and how the social impact end of it ties together is, at the end of the day, games are Tyler kind of touched on it. Games are supposed to be fun, but more importantly, they're supposed to be unifying, right? some of the most best experience I've had in my years of gaming is like, I'm an avid sports guy. I remember just getting my butt whooped by guys that I thought I could compete with on FIFA. And then just building these long lasting friendships and unification over like miles and miles apart from each other. And we find a little bit of that in what we're building has opposed to like a traditional guild around here. Like, we're so invested in our scholars. We're so invested in the people that represent us, both from like just a monetary angle to just make the best lives available for them. But more importantly, I think it's that unification. We have like, you could talk to our guild masters. There's not too many guild masters out there that speak to their guild on a one-to-one individual basis daily. Like, we're in such close communication. Like, Tyler and I were talking about that this morning. Like, some of these guilds that you see come around, they're like strength in numbers. They're 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 strong. But I guarantee you those guild masters don't know each of these guys by name. They don't know their family situation. They don't know their hardship individually, right? So I think what we're trying to build here goes beyond, your traditional scholarship program. At the end of the day, we want to provide better lives for people across the world. And I think in doing so is like, we're just meeting great people along the way. And that's so important to us as a company.
No, I mean, I think that's amazing. And actually the kind of second major thing that I wanted to get into was kind of how you are exactly what you said, where you're not really focused on like, let's get the highest numbers. Let's make the most impact, right? Because it's not about how, you could be like a mile wide and an inch deep versus like an inch wide and a mile deep, right? You can really make an impact with someone or multiple people, but if you focus in on that. And so part of that too was you're focusing on really who are the cream of the crop, right? You want to be in the top 10%. And I think that's awesome. And I want to actually get your take on this because there's been a heavy focus now within Splinterlands and the Splinterlands team on like esports, for example. And I think at the end of the day, one of the things that make games so fun is how competitive they can be, right? So obviously you're going to have different genres of games. Sometimes there's just creative or open sandbox type games, but in a lot of them, like, you want to rank up, you want to be at the best of the best or within, the top 500 or top 10, whatever it ends up being, in significant games. So to me, it's interesting that your focus is on that. And it's like, let's cut out all the noise. Let's really get the best of the best and then invest in them, not just as gamers, but as people. And so, my question for you then is how do you view, well, if you want to expand on that first of all, and then how do you view the kind of like esports movement within crypto gaming? And I'm actually very curious to get your perspective because, like I said, I feel still very somewhat new to the space. So I'm very curious to see how you feel about esports and crypto NFT gaming kind of making that jump into it.
Yeah, for sure. So to kind of touch on the 10% model, at the end of the day, it's kind of a win-win for us because we are looking for maximized impact. Again, our goal is to provide and this is kind of internal verbiage that we've coined here at NFTy, but we're calling it a lifetime value of a scholar model, right? And there's obviously lifetime value of a customer, and that's how much does it cost to acquire a customer, and how much value do they provide to you as a company over the lifetime of their engagement with you. But for us, it's actually the opposite. How much value are we providing to them over the life of their relationship with us at NFTy? And that's something that we're focused on. And there's actually a whole roadmap that we'd like to see people go through, all the way to investing in themselves and providing education for themselves in terms of specific blockchain vocation, right? And that's a whole other discussion. But at the end of the day, we're never going to be people who have the most scholars. We're never going to be the biggest guild, right? We're never going to be able to go out there and say, hey, we have 20,000 Axie scholars, 15,000. Well, maybe in the future, right, when it gets bigger. But right now, we're never going to compete with Yield Guild on numbers, right? Just that we're never going to be able to do that. And I think that Yield Guild and these guilds that are just bringing people in, I think they have there's value there because they're onboarding people into Web3. But what we want to do is we want to maximize impact on an individual level. And the way that I see this space progressing is the significant earnings are going to be within the top 10% of every game. We can see that Axie Infinity is already shifting its model. That way they reduced significantly SLP rewards. They pulled some huge economic levers, and the people who are now really earning something are the people who are more competitive. And that's the way that I see all games moving in the space. And that's why that we're cultivating that culture of how are we going to build top 10% people so that they can earn actually significant amounts of money and not just have it be insignificant. We want them to really earn something. And so that at the end of the day, we win if our brand is 10%, and that is elitist and good for us, right? That makes it so that we have good education, we have a good institution, but it also helps each person earn more and maximize the impact that we have on each life. So it's kind of a win-win, right? We see it as a win from an organizational perspective, and we see it as a win for the scholar perspective as well. Now, kind of on the esports part, the esports is interesting because esports generally there's really no, esports organizations or any kind of or esport movement in Web3. The really interesting thing about Web3 gaming is there is kind of esports built into each game with the advent of tokenomics and the earning potential, right? The people who are at the top of the game are considered, quote unquote, potentially pro gamers, right? And I really do like that, because if you think about League of Legends or you think about these other games, the only way to make money is get a following on a stream or get on a pro team and win tournaments, right? Yep. And I really do like the fact that if I'm the best at League of Legends, but I don't want to get on a team or I don't want to stream, that I can still make money by beating people and being in the top 1% of the game, right? Yep. So I do in the future, as games get more competitive and as they get more complex, I mean, Axie Infinity and Splinterlands and in the majority of these projects, they're still pretty lightweight as it pertains to their Web 2 competitors. There's not a ton of depth there. I really like the way Splinterlands is going. I also like the way Axie Infinity is going with the changes that they're making, but there's still not a lot of depth, right? There's not a lot of competitive depth. There's no Fortnite in Web 3 right now. There's no League of Legends in Web 3, but I 100% promise you that it's coming, and we will see AAA titles, and we will see very competitive games coming out, and we will start to see esports institutions form within Web3, whether that's a transition from Web 2 to Web3 or we see brand new institutions. That's something yet to be seen, but we hope to be one of those institutions forming in Web3 for esports.
No, that's great. I mean, there's always going to be this argument of like, the ones that are built natively on whatever the new era is, right? So whatever is built natively on Web3, they're the ones that end up dominating rather than anybody trying to migrate through. So if you just look at it through history, Facebook, Google, they dominated as soon as Web2 came around, right? You didn't have all these older companies who were like, I don't know, this internet thing might be a fad, actually make some kind of impact. So I think it's great that you guys are building here. And I guess maybe just a quick follow-up to that question is you've put a lot of time into Axie Infinity, you've put a lot of time into Splinterlands, and you made the comment about certain Web 2 companies or some of these big AAA studios entering into the space. Do you see that as a potential threat, or is it something where there's going to be some synergist integration? And at the end of the day, I guess for you, when I say threat, it's not really a threat for you, because I think as more and more people and as more companies come on, Nifty Arcade is in a unique position where you guys can just be like, yep, we're going to add another game to our portfolio, or we're going to do another thing like that. But I'm just curious how you view, from your perspective, where some of these movements are coming from and where maybe the dominance will be in the future.
Yeah, I'm all about adoption. I think what we need is we need to see consistent, sustained levels of continued growth as it pertains to adoption of Web3 gaming. Right now, there's this huge discourse in the Web2 gaming community about NFTs being a scam and these being money-grabbing projects. And frankly, I understand where they're coming from, right? I understand if you're not generally exposed to these projects and a lot of the potential and cryptocurrency in general and Web3 in general and kind of the ideology behind what Web3 is, I totally understand why this looks like a scam, right? But what I want Web2 people to understand, and something that I'm trying to help everybody in my circle of gamers understand, is that this is about ownership in communities that we spend hundreds to thousands of hours participating in. I have spent thousands of hours playing RuneScape and playing League of Legends, and I don't have a say in that community. They don't listen to me. They don't care what I think. It's top-down decision-making. Web3 gaming is all about we as community stakeholders owning the project. We own NFTs in the project. We own the governance token, and we're a part of that organization, and we have governance in that organization, and we actually get to be a part of where it goes. And that is phenomenal to us as gamers, because one of the biggest complaints on the gamer side, as long as we've been around, is that the community doesn't have control of the project. It's, hey, maybe the gaming company, the development company will listen to us, or maybe they won't, right? It's all top-down decision-making. And it's decentralization of power and decentralization of decision-making, giving it to the community. And at the end of the day, that ideology is left behind when we talk about making money and when we talk about NFT prices and flipping. But that's the spirit of this. It's not about making money, and it's not about NFTs. It's about gamers having a stake in what they spend a large part of their life. You know?
I think the big thing too for me, coming from, I fell victim to things like, I don't want to name drop, like, I'm a sports gamer at heart, so I know all about that. Let's pay an obnoxious amount of money for a pair of athletic shorts that are going to be gone in a year's span. So I think that, you know, it's intimidating to a lot of Web2 developers, even because this puts the model, it flips the model on its head a little bit, right? So now we're seeing Web3 be one of those things where your investment is, you know, carry it with you, right? We've got guys here like OG Splinterland players that, like, we just talked on stream about, you know, an OG card we wish we still had access to, or we want to use frequently. So I think that the model, I think a lot of Web2 people are going to be like late to the party just because they're afraid of it affecting the bottom dollar, right? So this model that they've created for so many years of, you know, that paid DLC that's here for a season, this seasonal mantra that you, at the end of the season, you're either in or you're out, and by the end of the game's lifespan, you're not taking any of that value you put into the game with you.
Yeah,
it's intimidating. It's intimidating from a marketing standpoint. It's intimidating from a developer standpoint, and it turns things on its head. But I guess my from where I sit, the big thing is, you know, embrace those kind of changes, man. You're going to build a community that is going to be truly invested, right? You're not going to have, the NFT is one of those games, like the games that we invest in, we're in, man. Like if we're doing the research behind if this is a fit for Nifty, we're going in and we're going all in. And I think a lot of Web2, like, you know, late adopters or riding the top of that curve are going to have to adapt like that. Is like, you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing, where you can right now with Web2, with the landscape of Web2, and that just doesn't exist here in what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You know, one of the things that's changed, because it changed my perspective, is when it comes to Web3 gaming, you know, since there isn't a sense of ownership now, like, it is one of those, like, you got to go all in. And the more you go all in, the better experience you have, the more you can earn, and really the more community you're able to build, right? And community, I guess you can kind of toss that out because it's the same in either side, right? Web2 and Web3, the further you go into something, the bigger community you build. But to your point, like, there's just so much more you get out of the game, the deeper you go in. And, you know, in Web2, you could be throwing thousands of dollars at something, and at the end, you don't get to walk away with anything. Here, God forbid something happens, at least you have that value retained. And if you need to sell it, or something like Splinterlands, what attracted me to Splinterlands was the very complex economy that they have behind it. And it's just like, if I want to take like a month off, I can rent my cards, and when I come back, I'm going to have more, right, than if I'd been playing any other game. So it's things like that I really love. But guys, I really appreciate the time today. And as we go ahead and wrap up, if you just want to talk about what you guys are doing next, what's to look forward to in the future. I know, you know, what I love is the fact that I was browsing the NFTy Arcade website. So you guys are posting informational content out there. I know you guys are doing streams as well, right? So
we just got into the stream game.
Yeah. So if you want to leave folks with a place, like a handoff on where they can find you, and then obviously I'll collect all the links from you and we can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, so we're super active on Twitter. A lot of that, our best place to follow our happenings here is on Twitter. That's at NFTy Arcade. We're offering, we're going new to streaming. We're all in. We're doing giveaways specifically to Splinterlands and Axie. We do giveaways every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're streaming Axie and Splinterlands on both those days. Our Twitch channel, you could find that at NFTy Arcade as well. Again, we're just trying to give the most, but we're trying to build a community of just like-minded people. We love what we do. We are super excited about coming to work each day. We're super excited. That's the joys about what we do, is like, I'm as excited as you guys are and the rest of the community is about playing these games and going all in. I just got pumped that we did a stream last week and someone pulled a gold foil, and I was like, I'm like, everyone's looking at me like I'm nuts. I jumped up in the office and I'm doing like fist pumps, and they're like, Mike, are you having like a heart attack or something? And I'm like, no, man. Like, one of our community members had just won something cool, and we were able to provide that. So we're trying to grow, man. We know that building this community, it helps everybody that's in it right now and everyone entering into it, and we want to make that transition seamless.
Awesome. Well, I love the mission. I love the approach. And most importantly, I love the energy that you guys have and what you bring to the space. So, for everybody watching here, make sure you go check out NFTy Arcade. I will definitely be sending people your way, especially those that are interested in getting involved in guilds and that are interested in being like the best of the best, because I think it's important. If you're going to get into something, why not aim for the top?
Shoot for the top, swing for the fence, man.
Yeah, I'm not the guy to challenge when you come in. Like, if things are right of passage, you got to go through Beastville. That's our boy on Square Lines, and Tyler is our guy on Axie. So that's another thing too, man, that I really stand by, and I want to just like leave with that is, again, we're just really active in the community, man. This is our CEO, and he's like playing Axie and streaming Axie, 3 times a week, man. It's just huge that we're so committed to what we're doing here, and we're so heavily invested in just being part of this community.
Like I said, I love it, and it's what a crazy world and time we live in to be able to go to work and play video games, right? It's just
seriously, man, it's
nuts.
incredible.
I wouldn't change it.
You were wrong, Mom.
And I wasn't
100%.
The TV.
100%. Oh man. All right. Well, I feel like it's only getting crazier, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really do appreciate it. And everybody, there will be links down in the description below where you can find out more on NFTy Arcade.
Really appreciate you guys. Thanks, Aftersound. Thanks for having us.
Anytime, guys. Take